What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a full worship style production in Logic Pro using only Logic Pro stock plugins and stock sounds and stock instruments. I'm really excited about it. But before we get into that, my name is Connor Edwards. If you're new here and you are a worshiper, you like to make any kind of like worship or praise music, please consider subscribing. It's a great way to support this channel. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Instead of going section by section, we're just going to kind of take it instrument by instrument. So we will start with the synths. The easiest to kind of just start out with is bass, which again, using only Logic stock instruments, we had the Logic bass. So that sounds like this. Okay, nothing really crazy going on there. Then I wanted to kind of start with piano. So I layered the studio grand piano and then the E piano together with that bass. They sound like this. Thought that was a really good place to start. Then I kind of stumbled upon this, but this Mellotron, so I blended a 3 violin setting and a boys choir setting together. I'm going to solo that so you can really hear it. I put this step effects plugin on it that's really giving it that filtered and side chain type of a feel. So just kind of layered that underneath, and then also layered these 2 arps that sound like this. And I'm renaming this because this is actually just a pad. It's the Celestial Voices inside of Alchemy. This is an ARP that I just made a sound in Retro Synth and then put on the ARP. Last but not least, we have this lead. So then now this is where I'm going to kind of bring in the guitars. I have this lead electric and then this lead piano that, again, just the vintage upright piano. So this is kind of like my lead lick that's in the intro. It's in the turnarounds. It's at the end. So it sounds like this. And as far as the guitar goes, I have all the settings still. So I use this amp ready to record inside of Amp Designer. Put a few pedals on there and then just some delay, some saturation. We also have acoustic guitars in the intro. These were recorded on an SM58 and I just double tracked. And I'm also in an alternate tuning. I think it's D-A-D-A-D-D. So Dad Add is the tuning that I'm in, but I thought it sounded really great when you can get a song in the key of like D major or E major or something like that. So it sounds like this. And you can see I'm processing that with some EQ, compress, a little bit more EQ. There was a resonant frequency there. And then some chroma glow, some saturation. Most of these instruments you can kind of see are staying with us all the way through most of the whole song. In the verses, I dropped out the pads and the arps and kind of brought those back in the chorus. The lead obviously is here and then it plays in the bridge. So there's some moments where I drop things out just for like the chords, but most of the time that is our sound bed that we created. The only other thing that I haven't covered is the electric chords. I brought those in the second chorus and then also played the bridge with these 2. So they sound like this. And that is all the instruments on this song. But then I do want to show you this bridge. I changed the progression to like a 6-4-1-5. So it sounds like this. There's the 4, and then the 1, and then to the 5. You can kind of hear that ad-lib vocal. I can talk about this really quick because it does kind of act like an instrument. I just sang some OO type things, tuned them, compressed them, added some distortion, and then filtered that out, then just added delay and reverb. That really is it for our instruments. So now let's get into the drums. We started the song like right off the bat, and we're using our kit. I used the Retro Rock kit in Logic. I did some things that I'll talk about in just a second, but let's give this a listen first. And like I've talked about on the channel before, I tried to play those to give it some human velocities and a little bit of imperfection, not hitting it the same exact way every single time. I processed the entire drum kit with some EQ, compression, chroma glow, and then a little bit of room reverb, super short decay time. And then as far as the kit itself, I started with Retro Rock, but I've got, I've got the heavy snare, I've got the smash toms, I've got the Retro Rock kit, and I've got the Retro Rock cymbals. And then the snare I tuned down some, as you can see, and dampened it. The toms I dampened a little bit, and the low one did even more dampening. The high one did even more dampening. I didn't really use the mid. And then the kick I've dampened and stuff. So play with that drum kit until it doesn't just sound great like right out of the box, but then I think if you maybe tune some things down, especially for modern worship sound, really dampen it, process it, you can get a pretty good sound out of that. So then like when we get to a full drum sound, it sounds kind of like this. So then the next thing with the drums is this impact. So I was building, of course, out of the bridge. If you have a bridge in a worship song, you have to do a big build to then that last chorus. So I added this impact, so it sounds like this. That impact came straight out of Logic's own loops. I also added this cymbal swell with it. And then I added this riser with it too. All right, and then I'm gonna mute the drum kit so that then you can hear these little doodads down here at the bottom. So we started out with a shaker loop that I took and EQ'd a little bit and add some reverb. Just add some backbeat rhythm. Then I also added in a filtered out snare. And then I added in a perk loop too, that just gave it some really nice rhythm besides just the drums. So that is all of the drums. So now on to the vocals. We'll start with the main vocal and then I'll talk about this stack that I have here as well. But for the main vocal, just recorded it, TLM 102. I did do flex tune that I've talked about before, pitch correction. I started with de-essing. That's something that I've learned that helps a lot. Then I went into some subtractive EQ, compressed twice, as you can kind of see there. Then I did multi-band compression, de-essed again, compressed for the final time, usually looking for about 5 dB of gain reduction between each of those 3 compressors. Added some top end with this exciter plugin and then EQ'd out some harshness that I found, especially towards the end of the song. And then the synths are just the usual delays and reverb. So the main vocal sounds like this.
There's nothing I could ever do. He set aside the debt that stood and nailed it to the cross.
Before, kind of like this.
There's nothing I could ever do. He set aside the debt that stood.
And then you add everything in.
There's nothing I could ever do. He set aside the debt that stood and nailed it to the cross.
I did want to add some stacks, so I recorded 6 other vocals to go with it. So before we look at what those are doing, let's just get to the chorus where you can hear first the main vocal kind of sounds like this.
I'm forgiven forever. I'm forgiven forever.
So then we bring in these 4 stacks, and on those I just did some EQ, some compression, de-essing, multiband. I put delay and reverb right on the track just to give it a bigger vibe, so they sound like this.
I'm forgiven forever.
Really thicken it up and widen it out a lot.
I'm forgiven forever.
So then later on in that second chorus, it's the same thing, but I just added 2 harmonies on each side too. So it sounds like this. Let's go ahead and bring in everything else too, so you can hear it with the mix.
I'm forgiven forever. I'm forgiven forever. For he has paid the price for my sin, and I'm forgiven forever.
And the last part that I do want to kind of touch on is just this bridge. It's the same exact stack, so nothing really new. I do feel like it's useful to hear how it kind of builds everything. So
You can't love me anymore unless the cross was mine, he bore.
there it comes.
And I am free. He broke my chains with lifted voice. I celebrate.
So there you have it. That's a full worship production and praise and worship production in Logic Pro using only Logic stock plugins. I hope you found this helpful so that now maybe you can go and mix and master your own production in Logic. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you will consider subscribing and supporting the channel in some way, shape, or form. If I didn't cover something that you want to see or you have a question or anything like that, please leave a comment and I promise I will get back to you, and see you next time.